Dear Father, God, we thank you so much, God, for bringing us all together, Lord. God, we praise you for so much. God, be with the decisions, God, that we make today, Lord. And God, we pray for those who are sick, God, who can't be with us, Lord. Just, God, keep your hand on them. And God, we just love you and we just thank you for everything. Amen.
Shelley, will you do the roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Tyler Gloria Jordan.
Present.
Bill England. Jack Baker.
Here.
Julia Coates. Jody Fishingham. Here. Meredith Fraley. Here. Chanel Fulbright. Here. Don Garvin. Chuck Hoskin Jr.
Here.
Lee Keener.
Only.
Dick Lay.
Here.
Curtis Snell.
Here.
David Thornton. David Walkenstick.
Here.
Kara Callan Mohammed. We do have a quorum.
All right, if everyone's had an opportunity to review the minutes of November 14th, I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve.
Jack made the motion and Mr. Garvin made the second. All those in favor of approving the minutes of November 14th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Stand as approved. The first report will be for the Human Services Department, Marcia Lamb.
Good afternoon. What I wanted to bring up first is I'm sure all of you have received the information on our LIHEAP funding, that we've received a drastic reduction in funding this year from the federal government. I think I mentioned that in our last meeting, and we just wanted to be sure that you guys are aware of it. If you have any questions, yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Karen.
thank you. Marcia, thank you for bringing that to our attention early. But it appeared to me that the numbers have somehow changed. So I was curious, have there been any personnel changes that have impacted your budget? And if so, what are those changes?
Not, there hasn't been any personal change. I haven't been here in a year.
No, as a matter of fact, a limited amount of our funds are actually used for administrative costs.
Okay.
10% is what we allow for
Okay.
admin costs. And it goes to our advocates and the intake workers. They're the ones that take the vast majority of the applications.
Right.
But no, nothing has changed as far as personnel
So
goes.
this is purely a line item change from direct funding of services through the federal government then?
Right, as a matter of fact, for the past 3 years, the federal funding level has been at $4.7 billion. And the current budget that the federal government is basing our appropriations this year is on $1.8 billion.
Okay.
So it's about a 65% reduction. Now, we do know that there's a continuing resolution. Probably all of you know that a decision is supposed to be made December the 16th, I believe, is the last date for the continuing resolution. So we don't know what's going to happen. We understand there's a lot of lobbying going on, but what it does boil down to is this year's appropriation so far, we've gotten $529,000. This time last year, we had like $1.2 million.
Okay, so this will only cover some initial immediate needs. Does it include any disaster increase in even just elderly and disabled that might be faced with additional folks that would need to be added to the list, even on those high priority individuals? But the memo from Chief Baker does not identify what choices are going to be made, where we are going to bring the $200,000 from. So have you made choices on where you're going to pull the $200,000 from?
I don't know that, I know I personally have no idea in the world, what the budget process is as far as where money could be taken from one line item to another. I just know that at this point in time, we have enough funds to serve the elderly and disabled only. We're not opening up the application process to any other households.
So what does the $200,000 do for us then?
What that would do is allow us to open up the application process to all categories. The way it is now, we've taken applications on the elderly and disabled, and we reduced the payment level by 25% of what we paid them last year. Last year, we served around 1,350 elderly and disabled. I can't give you the exact number of applications that we've taken this year, but I'm sure it's quite close to that. And the money that we have at this point in time only allows us to serve the elderly and disabled. We have not opened up our application process to all other household categories. The all other household categories was like 475, I believe, last year. And for those 475, we don't have funds in our federal budget to serve them, so we're just not taking the applications.
Jerry, can you give me an example of what the other folks, who those folks might be, not by name, but like an example of, I mean, are,
Okay, this would be any household that does not fall in the category of being the head of the household or the application maker, not being 60 years of age or older, or disabled. So these are all the younger households. Any household under the age of 60 that one of the others not disabled, that's that category.
that would have to meet poverty guidelines?
Actually, we kept the poverty plus 50. That was another big debate. You know, when we got these large increases 3 years ago, and 4 years ago, we increased the eligibility standards from poverty plus 10 to poverty plus 50, which opened the door to a wider range of participants. We did leave that door open at 150, but we reduced the payment by 25%, just so we could serve all the elderly and disabled. So to answer your question, the additional $200,000 is going to allow us to serve all of those other households. We don't know what the number would be. Last year it's 450 or so. The state of Oklahoma is not taking applications on that group. I fear that we may get flooded with clients if we open up the application.
Thank you
If
very
we-
much for your details and candor.
If we had a limited amount that we could serve those under 60, we would probably do a priority of those that have children, and then go down to the single person, just to make sure the children are taken care of.
I have one more question. Do we ever have any instances where we pay somebody's LIHEAP services for a year in full?
Not a year in full, but let me tell you what has happened. Over the past 3 years, we've, well, the federal government's been real generous. Been real generous. As a matter of fact, I don't know if y'all have gotten the information, but in '09, we got 1.9 million. In 10, we got 1.8. 2011, we got 1.7 million. And so far this year, we have $529,000. And what that allowed us to do for the elderly and disabled, in addition to making a regular payment for them last year, in February, we come back in and made a supplemental payment, which was 25% of what their original appropriation was. And then in the summer, we made a cooling assistance payment for all the elderly and disabled. And then we were fortunate enough to get some funding from Sidco. We received I believe it was $85,000 from Sidco. And that money had to be expended before the end of June. So what we did, we paid heating assistance payments for all the elderly and disabled, whatever heating source they used. We paid them, I think it was $236 per household. So to answer your question is yes, with last year's funding, we didn't actually pay for a full year, but by the time we made the initial payment, the supplemental payment, and then the Sidco payment, they should have had more than adequate funds to pay for their heating costs through our program for the entire year.
But in normal circumstances, we would never just pay somebody's utility bill in a year ahead of time,
Absolutely not.
or even several, I mean, it sounds like even 6 months or more, we wouldn't.
They could credit their bills, and that's what they did with the Sidco payment. In other words, if you
But
received...
not under, sorry to interrupt, but not under normal federal LIHEAP.
Right.
We're not.
Right.
Okay.
Well, we make the supplemental payment, and generally what the utility company will do is add it to your account as a credit. as a credit. So, you know, you might run along for another 3 or 4 months before you'd actually have to make a payment. For instance, propane last year, our average payment was $483. That's for a single, or a household with up to 2 individuals in it. $483. And that would buy you 250 gallon, 300 gallon of propane maybe. And then the family would be on their own from that point on. This year's program, what we're proposing was a 25% reduction, so the average payment will be $362 for the household of 2. And like I say, that will be limited to the elderly and disabled only.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other
Councilor
questions?
Fraley?
You mentioned the sit-go payment last year. Is that gonna be available now? And if so, have we applied?
Our first year was 2 years ago, and it was March before Sitco let their money out. And we received $200,000 that year. Last year it was March before Sitco let their money out. And we got close to $500,000 last year. And we had no idea. Marcia has written a couple of letters to Sitco saying, hey, we're hurting here, can you kind of give us a heads up? And so far, we haven't gotten a response from them, but it's kind of one of those things that you could look at, get horse in the mouth, but you sure don't want to kick them in the knees too many times. He may not produce, but, so we don't really know, whether we are, or if so, how much, or when. And I don't know, you know, come Friday, Congress may come back in and they may pass a spending bill that, I know what they're asking for, at least from all the lobbying that's being done, even if a continuing resolution, if they pass another continuing resolution, all the lobbying is asking for a $3.4 billion budget if a continuing resolution is enacted again Friday. And if not, we'll still be at the $1.9 billion. And Congress comes through, we won't need any additional money. Just one.
Councilor Fishing Hall?
So the elderly and disabled, there's about 1350 of them. But non-elderly and disabled is not gonna get funded this year, right?
Right. At this point in time, we don't have the funds to.
Yeah, if you're
assist.
40 and you're disabled, you're not gonna get
Oh,
funded.
no, if you're disabled, yeah,
And
any disabled,
non-elderly.
regardless of the age, So what we do, if you're 60 years of age or older, you automatically, we're gonna take your application.
Mhm.
Or if you're disabled, regardless of what age you are, we'll take your application.
Okay, the thing I got, impact on constituents, it says assistance will not be provided for non-elderly and disabled.
Yeah. Did we say that wrong? If we did, I apologize. Is that what you, did I say? Yeah,
Well, the first one, it says only elderly and disabled will be assisted, then right below it, it says it will not be provided for non-elderly and disabled.
That's what we don't have the funding for, with the non-elderly.
yeah. There should be a little dash between non
Yeah.
and elderly, right. Is that, is it my notes? Okay.
Okay, and then, Marcia, did, all the coats get taken care of?
I got a report just before I got over here. And it looks like in your area that we have taken all but 20. And that should be taken care of.
So all but 20 of them can take care of it?
Yeah.
Okay. Angel Tree. Could you send me an email on if anybody got in front of the Angel Tree? I kept sending emails about the Angel Tree, and I never would get anything back.
From me?
Well, from whoever you sent it on to, saying if they was
Randy.
taken care of or not.
Okay. What I want to do next year is I'm forming a committee to see about ways we can get it out in the deal. And answer your question, I can give you a report probably by next month or before. I'll send it out and I'll share it with anybody else who wants it, on the angel tree and on the coat vouchers. But I will entertain any suggestions you have on either program.
Okay. If you can get it to Todd, I'd appreciate it if we got it. Okay, thank you.
Just as a follow-up on that question too, how many people in Angel Tree have not had their name picked?
I don't know because they were just picked up and we get them, you know, people, what they do at the very last is we'll get contributors and then they start filling them. What I've asked for is a report by the end of this week on how many's left.
I know Todd did a report on that last Friday, and we can get a copy of that and forward it to you. I would like to point out that I believe Doug provided a copy of this document and laid them on each of your desks. In case you haven't seen this document, it's the LIHEAP, just says LIHEAP 2012. And that kind of breaks down the information that we've been talking about. Shows the past year's funding and gives a illustration of how it's going to affect us.
That was the question. Yeah, the first and
Madam
third
Chairman?
point.
When I was visiting with the program people last week, when this issue first came up about a week ago, I asked them to provide information, additional information such as this on program participation, funding, what did we do last year, who was eligible, who wasn't. I was expecting this to come over when I found out that Friday only a memo from the chief came over, but this document never did. That's why I got it out early this morning to you guys. And I'm not sure if everyone has a copy or saw it on their desk earlier or saw my email this morning. If not, I'll go get copies of this made because there's some really good program information in here. I think would kind of summarize everything that you're talking about here when it comes to participation level and funding from last year. And there's also an update from the Washington DC office from Joel Williams. That's really good information pertaining to Congress and what the federal program has on its table. The problem was they're not voting till Friday. The CR, ends this Friday, but as you know, with our schedule, that could delay if this body chooses to do a subsidy. That's why my memo I mentioned a provisional, something of a provisional nature, to where this would allow them, if you want them to open the program back up to the low-income group of applicants, then we could do it that way with a provisional budget, and then bring it back into the, bring it back to the tribal coffer, the reserve fund, once the federal funds come down. So anyway, that's the purpose of this memo. I'm not sure if everyone received it or has seen it or not. If not, I'll make copies.
Thank you, Doug. Chuck, I believe you're next.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. Doug, if we, and I think we should put the money in this program, if we do that tonight in a budget mod, can we put a mechanism in it that automatically triggers it back, or do we have to subsequently come back and say Congress has appropriated more money, so we now want to take some of those tribal funds back?
I believe so. I believe if that's the way the motion is written, then that's how we'll document it in the appropriation bill. And once this money does come down from the federal government, we'll bring it back through the very next budget mod as a refund. You'll still come before you, so you'll still see the money coming back into the contingency reserve.
Okay, thank you.
You can't just change a budget without going through here.
Okay, and I had a question for the program. On the disabled, is it enough that they have a disabled Cherokee in the household, or does the disabled person have to be the head of household?
The application maker and an adult.
Why is that?
That was just how the original proposal was written and how it was approved at the federal level. And because in the past, any other household...
It's a federal requirement?
No, it's not a federal requirement. No. In the past, any other household could just go to the state. They get the same service. Unfortunately, this year, the state of Oklahoma is not taking any new applications on any clients.
the reason I ask, I have, it seems like every few years I have a constituent who has a family where there's a disabled Cherokee child. Maybe they meet the income guidelines, and I'm just wondering, why does it just matter that it's a head of household that's disabled? Is it because that impacts their ability to earn income, or because if this is a tribal policy, I'd like to see us kind of
No.
study it for future years. If it's a federal policy, we're stuck, but.
It's not a federal policy, it's just the way the proposal has been written. There is a clause in there about crisis assistance. In the crisis assistance program, if there's any member of the household that's of Cherokee descent, we assist them. And there's absolutely nothing to say that we can't rewrite the proposal to read the same for regular heating assistance.
Okay.
And we'll certainly consider doing that
Okay, thank
the
you.
next go-round.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Garvin?
Yes, thank you. All signs point to a cold winter, and we sure need to take care of our elders. I definitely think we need to do this, but I have a couple of questions. One, do you have any trouble with other tribes double dipping, getting money from us?
You know, the only other tribe that matters is the UKB, and they have always in the past received a LIHEAP grant too. And it's been a difficult task in the past to get them to share information with us. You know, we have so many of our Cherokee households that Mama's UKB and Daddy belongs to the Cherokee Nation. And it is awful difficult sometimes to keep up with, you know.
So they can get it from both places?
No, they cannot. They're only supposed to get one service. We have a meeting every year with all the state DHS officials, along with the UKB, and of course, our tribe. And we share, for the elderly and disabled, we share a list of all the participants that we serve with the UKB and with the state of Oklahoma. So they can take that list back and make sure that they're not duplicating services out of their office. The UKB failed to come to our meeting this year, so, but we did go ahead and get them a list of all the participants that we were serving, so they could double check their records to make sure that duplication was not occurring. And it's difficult for us to get information from them, from the UKB. But no, supposedly they're only supposed to get one payment, and if they get a second payment from another agency, you know, it's an overpayment that
No one really checks on it.
Well, the state of Oklahoma, I know they check.
Have they ever caught anyone?
Oh, ever so often they will. And whoever makes the first payment is the one that's responsible to retrieve the overpayment. So we try to let DHS, no, whoever makes the second payment has to retrieve the overpayment. So we try to always make our payments before DHS.
Thank you.
Mr. England?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Of course, I have two questions. One was this here, Doug, you sent us this, we was on our way to Tahlequah today, so I wasn't, but Marcia gave me her copy. I appreciate that. The other question I have for Marcia, could you email us the clothing voucher to see how Tulsa and Rogers County Cherokees received that assistance also?
I have a list here, I'll be glad to. This is what it'll look like, but I'll go ahead and send it to you if you want to get your numbers off of there.
Sure.
Is that all, Mr. England?
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Mr. Lake?
Thank you. If we get our money from the feds, would it be possible to get some just regular wood stoves for this winter? I wonder, not the pellet stoves?
Oh, yeah. We have already made plans, and I have our managers looking for some stoves right now. We've got them priced everywhere from $450 to $700 or $800 for regular wood stoves. And of course, these are the cabinet models. And we hope to purchase at least 10 out of the money that we've already gotten from the federal government. What we're calculating is that it's going to take somewhere in the ballpark of 400, and I believe those calculations are on the back of that one sheet that I handed out. they was gonna take around $415,000 to make our payments to the elderly and disabled, the admin cost. And then under crisis assistance, we're showing $61,000. That's the money we would use to purchase wood stoves. I believe we have 7 propane wall heaters, and we have no natural gas. And we still have the 6 or 7 pellet stoves that were purchased a few years back, but most of our elderly and disabled are not interested in the pellet stoves. But we do plan on purchasing some wood stoves here in the next few weeks.
Mr. Norton?
Just,
Okay, I'm trying to give everybody a chance for round one. We're starting on a redo. Does anybody else want to talk that hadn't talked? I've got you down. Okay, Kara, I'm gonna have to limit you somewhat because we can't take the whole hour on this.
So on, it doesn't distribute like by how counties and districts is going. So do we have an idea of where those recipients are? I don't think they're in the monthly report. So
we can break it
can
down
we get
for you.
that for you?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
oh yes,
Thank you. Thank you, Madam
They're
Chair.
actually sent to me, broken down by county, and I put them in one lump sum, so it's no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Garvin, I think you needed to
Yeah,
ask
I
another
forgot to
question,
ask
sir.
about the live blankets. Will we have a chance to get those?
We have sent the design work in, and we're waiting on that company to give us a print off of it. It could be March before the blankets are actually delivered. And I understand that the council's gonna purchase blankets. At least that was my understanding, was that they were gonna make them available for you to purchase. Yeah.
Better make good pallets in springtime, put on the grass. Lay 'em. Thank you.
Is Mr. Embry here? Did he have to leave? Okay, I'm gonna direct this question to Speaker Fraley then. I'm sensing that we're maybe talking about amending the budget mod for tonight, and I don't know whether we need to ask for a motion on this and rules then to move it to the agenda tonight.
I think Ms. you should have a motion.
Well, I was working on a motion, and I did discuss it with Todd, and he said that we could just introduce it tonight if we wanted to amend the mod 3. We don't have to have a motion here.
Okay,
A committee.
but to amend this agenda takes 9, to amend the agenda tonight takes 12. Is my understanding. I could be wrong, and I will defer that to,
Just go through the committee first.
and I know that we've always before said it needs to go through a committee to get to the agenda, council agenda.
Yeah, that would be my preference as well, but, and for discussion, but that's the answer Todd gave me when I asked.
Okay. And I'm sensing some other interest over here on this side. Councilman Baker.
The budget mod is already on the agenda, so it would just be a motion to change that. You would not have to change, we would not have to amend the agenda.
So is the consensus it just takes 9 tonight too?
No, we don't have to amend the agenda. We would just have to add it.
Just a minute, that's mine.
Okay. Just to amend the budget mod, and that would just be 9. So, if you have a preference to do it now, it's fine. If you wanna wait until tonight, that's fine too. But I sense that I'm seeing nodding heads, people are wanting to put this in the, budget mod. So I'm gonna throw it out here. Does anybody wanna make a motion to do it right now? And let's just so it's run through a committee?
I make that motion, Madam Chair, and that it be included in the budget mod this evening at the full council.
Second motion.
Point of order, question, information, whatever. Are we printing money somewhere? Where's this money coming from?
I'm going to, Meredith, you made the motion. Is there a suggestion within that motion of where you'd like for the money to be taken from?
yes, it'll come from the contingency reserve fund. And then if can I revise that motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Todd helped him prepare this motion. Put a motion to approve a provisional budget for a LIHEAP subsidy in the amount of $200,000 to be funded by transfer from contingency reserve fund and be an amendment to mod 3 to be considered at tonight's council meeting. By provisional, that in the event the federal funds are approved and received after these funds are appropriated, then those funds will revert back to the contingency reserve fund.
And that would be your motion?
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Garvin, would that be your second?
That's perfect.
Okay.
Sorry.
And again, I'm gonna ask for guidance from the speaker. Would it be appropriate to ask if anybody else wants to join in that sponsorship?
Sure.
Okay. I'd like to ask at this time if anybody would like to join in that sponsorship. Raise your hand so Shelley can get that.
Who would not want
Anybody that doesn't.
Maybe anybody that doesn't want to join in that motion. Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and ask for a vote on the is there any other discussion? If not, I'll ask for a vote on the motion. All those in favor of the motion made by Councilor Fraley and seconded by Mr. Garvin, and appears to be sponsored by the entire body. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so it'll be moved into the budget mod number 3 tonight at full council. Thank you. Marcia. Okay, the next report, looks like next several reports are Mr. Sutherland. Mr. Sutherland, do you want to combine? We have, let's do all of your reports if this would be all right. That would be 2.
Well, I'm going to attempt to do Michael's report also.
Okay, do 2 through 6 then.
I
You're
told
the
him
man.
if I'm going to be over it, I already know something about it.
Okay.
So,
Since
but he's
you want to
here.
cut Mr. Lynn off, if you need assistance, I guess you'll call him.
That's what he's here.
Okay.
Community services, one of the things I've done is the self-help housing program. I moved those folks underneath the rehab program. We're in the process of finishing up 7 houses that are under construction. We want to do them as quickly as possible. We don't want them stretching out for several months. We're going to do a follow-up on all the homes that have been built with SIPs to see what, if any, problems we've got. I know there's been some problem with the ventilation in the past. We want to make sure that those are up to snuff, so to speak. We still have 4 houses that we need to start in the near future, but right now we're doing more of finishing up what we got on the ground, reevaluating what's on the ground, and see if we need to make some repairs to those things that are on the ground already. One of the community works projects, you know, this is the time of year that we take applications for those. We will be taking applications until January the 27th. That application will be online, or if you need one, contact Chris Welch or myself or Rick Gassaway. Somebody will have one if you have an organization that needs an application for community works. One of the things I was asked to look at and bring back today was some information on the adult grant program. Until a month ago, I didn't know we had an adult grant program. But I guess when I found out, we were already out of money in the adult grant program. So what I'm giving you is a little handout. It actually has the number of community youth grants and adult grants that we've done by county. And I'll just start that way. Start that this way. And also is the application for the community adult grant. After reviewing the application, we really need to go over this. I talked to the chief. Chief, we're out of money in this. We've got several applications that were unfunded. It's really a program that needs to be looked at as to what the purpose is. And he told me, he says, that's a council program. We need to get direction from the council on what, who we're trying to serve in this program, do we still need this program, and so forth. So that's why you're getting a copy of the existing application. We don't need to do, a decision today on revising this. But it is something that, he's asked me to get with you all to get some direction on the direction of this program.
Chuck, you had some questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I appreciate that he is giving deference to the council, but admin has had some experience actually administering this program, dealing with the applicants. So my request is that you get with the people that have administered the program, and if they have suggestions, we need to hear those. I think it's an important program because it's a modest amount of funding. There's not a tremendous amount of red tape, but it's an opportunity to encourage community service. So what we need to hear is if your impression was that it needs some work, then give us some guidance and we can kick it around. Maybe not necessarily this month, but if you need to.
One of the things the chief recommended maybe was to see if y'all wanted to put it together a work group to meet a time or two. If I know who we're supposed to be serving, then we could have some pretty good suggestions, I think. From just exactly what you said just now, it's somebody that's doing some type of community work on a specific project. We've got, under this, we got folks that are helping individual people with their housework. Teenager or an adult assisting a relative or what have you with who's ill. That's how they're doing some of their community service. I'm not sure that was what the program was designed for, to be honest with you. But,
Madam Chair, I can't recall how we typically do work groups, but if you want to direct it, but I do think we need to take admin up on its offer that we get together and work on this because it's a good program that probably needs some tweaking.
Okay, there's been a proposal for a work group for the adult.
Let's do the adult and the youth so we can have some discussion of both
Okay.
programs.
Been a suggestion for a work group for both the youth grant program and the adult assistance program. And I assume, David, you've had someone work through this material.
and the recommendation is it needs to be reworked.
And that person, would the work group be given access to that person on a regular basis?
Oh, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Gary Cooper's the one that's, he's been looking at several policies and making some recommendations. This one, we're both kind of scratching our heads and we really need, what is the purpose? Who are we trying to serve? And then I think we can come up with some good suggestions.
How many of you would be willing to serve on that work group? Show by a raise of hands. Shelley, could you get these names down? Looks like Lee and Jody, Curtis, Chuck, David Walkenstick. Anybody else? Myself. Okay. Well, we'll just make a decision that we'll form a work group. It will be comprised of less than a majority of the council right now, and we'll report back to you, I don't know with the holidays, we can do it next month, but let's say our target date will be February. That'll give us 2 months to work on it.
Now, as you can see, there are 326 unfunded applications. We quit taking applications back in November. I don't know if you all want to do anything about those or not. The way this is, it's I hate saying this, but first come, first served is how this was written. So,
Madam Chair?
Carrie, you're next to discuss.
So
I understood originally when we asked for this program to be put in place, it was supposed to be divvied up by district or by counties, and there's an extreme inequity when two counties are getting almost all the funding. So it needs to be divvied up appropriately, because I know when our folks call, they're deterred or deferred, even at the phone call level, so we're not even seeing applications is the feedback that I get. So they're not even counted in this as unfunded because I guess, I don't know if it's friends here in Cherokee and Adair County that are getting funded versus they don't know these people an hour, hour and a half away from the, you know, I don't know. I don't know what's happening, but
understand.
it needs to be appropriately divided amongst the Cherokee people throughout the 14 counties. Then the other question I had is, when do you expect to have a modified Indian housing plan to accommodate changes in housing that we anticipate?
I'm hoping to have it to the committee in January.
Okay, thank you, Madam
One
Chair.
of the things I was waiting on was the final books to be closed,
Okay,
and we got that. So.
thank you, David.
Mhm.
While we're still on this work group, Jody, I'm gonna ask you to be the interim leader on that work group until we meet, so set up a meeting with everyone that's on this list, if you wouldn't care to do that for us. That'll at least get us started towards a target date of when we can have the meeting, okay? Okay, I think, we got everybody on the list to ask questions, so just continue your report.
That was really all I had in community services. I was gonna move to roads.
Mr. Thornton,
David, being out in the district and moving around, I've run into a few people that need their kitchen stove replaced. These people that I've run onto have propane stoves, and I'm being told and was told that there are no propane stoves, that there are only electric stoves that can replace these.
I'm familiar with that one. That's a good question to ask.
There's two there.
When the housing has, like our apartments here in Tahlequah, after so many years, we'll go in and replace all the stoves and refrigerators. And what we do with those, if they're still in working order, we give them to Human Services. And Human Services, as they get requests, they give those out to needy families. We don't have any propane. That's where there's no propane. But we still got the self-help emergency money, that $2,000 program, that can buy a stove. They can buy a propane stove. Now, the income limit on it is 50% of the national median income. So if you're making a lot of, some money, you may not qualify. But that is still eligible under that.
But then, again, if this person is renting, they can't get that stove.
I'm sorry.
If the person is renting a house.
Oh, renting, that's
then
true.
they can't, they're not allowed to.
That was part of that deal down there. I don't know, I can't
No,
speak
this-
from Marcia. Oh, right there. I don't know if you all provide one of those to a rental unit or not. It's good discussion
I'm
item.
not sure, but I don't think I think if it's a rental and in the rental agreement, if it says that they're gonna provide one, then we don't. If it comes unprovided, then we give it to the participant, but I can double check on that.
I need you to.
I think
For one of them.
the thinking behind that, if they're renting a unit and they're supposed to be providing them a stove,
Yeah,
that should be something the landlord should
right,
take care of.
right. But if it's not in the agreement, then what she's saying is that they may be able to help them. Now, what about this, if they do have a propane stove, what about being able to come in and install an electrical hookup where they can plug in, where they can
Well,
hook up electric stove? Do we have any program like that that would help these people?
it's possible.
I'm talking about low income that are low
Right.
income. I'm not.
What we have to be careful of sometimes if you go in and start messing with someone's electric, you're required to fix the whole thing.
Yeah.
And a simple hookup might cost us, you know, something that, and again, this is not, you know, that adult grant, that's not the only thing we're looking at. We're looking at some of our emergency programs also. You know, why couldn't we pay somebody, if they had somebody come in and hook it up? You know, if they had somebody come in and hook up that electric, maybe we could pay for it. Those are the type of things, we're trying to make it a little more user-friendly.
Take liability off.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Because, you know, we go in there and start tinkering with someone's electric, and then it's how come you didn't, you know, replace the whole thing? And, we'll take a look at that. That's and the part about the rental, I hadn't really thought about that, but if they're in an agreement where they supply their own appliances, why wouldn't you assist them?
Well, another thing that they've been renting for, you know, a few years anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You were gonna move on to roads, I believe?
Roads, yeah. A couple of weeks ago, we had the community meeting down at Dry Creek, or community feed. It was a kickoff to the Barber Road project. I didn't speak about that because I went. I know what that's all about. I don't know if we've got, you all have any questions on roads? At this,
Because of time, David, let's let your report stand then if they don't have questions on roads. I would like to ask you one thing. I missed Dry Creek because I didn't know about the meeting. So if you would be so kind on any other meetings, and I'm sure everybody here would be interested in seeing any meetings in their area, please make sure that we're reminded of those meetings.
we'll do that.
Okay. And then public comment period for road issues, or do you have any?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay. Then that moves you on down to housing services.
I do not have any disclosures for this month. The Housing Authority Board meeting is a week from tomorrow at noon, the 20th. We are still working on details on building houses. We're going to be doing that in the very near future. As Kara asked a while ago, we will be preparing an Indian Housing Plan revision and get it to y'all before the next committee meeting. So the plan is to get you one before the next committee meeting. Just the pending policy, HUD policy changes. The funding bill was approved. It's been signed by the president on November the 18th. It was for $650 million, which is real comparable to the FY11 money. It does not contain the $20 million threshold that we had talked about, nor does it contain the 3-year to spend requirement. And actually, I've got to get more info on it, but it contains a 10-year. I just cannot understand why they would put a 10-year. That's just crazy to me. I guess it's the fix to the Navajo problem. If they got money over 10 years old, then they're not going to get any new until they spend it. That's all I can think of. That's all I have.
Mr. Thornton?
I hate to keep hammering on this, but
That's all.
as far as housing is concerned and building homes, I sure am glad that you're looking into Marble City and Knightcut area. I think we really need them bad in those areas, those 2 areas. And if you'll just keeping on, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
One additional thing, David. My understanding from your report is on January 16th, you're going to provide this committee with an amended housing plan. Will that also include the restructuring of the housing authority?
I'm not sure if it'll contain that as far as
When might we expect that?
a little later in the year.
How much later?
To be honest, I don't have a ideal date for that. I need to visit with the chief and get some things worked out with him, what his expectation is. Then I'll maybe be able to give you a little more info on time frames.
Would it be possible, and I think you can, to include that report with January 16th, the amended housing plan?
Sure.
So we can expect a update on restructuring of the Housing Authority on January 16th. Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions of, well, you had that pending HUD policy changes.
That was the part about the
Okay,
president
okay,
signed that.
okay.
I'm not sure you need that on the agenda anymore or not. I just, it's really up to you.
Is there a motion then to remove number 6 from future agendas for this committee? Chuck made that motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Who seconded? Jack. All in favor of removing number 6 as a regular agenda item, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, thank you, David.
Thank you.
Okay, the last report is Anna Knight with Commerce.
It's good to be last sometimes, but it ran out of time. So you have a copy of my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions of Ms. Knight or her report? Okay,
All right.
good to be late.
It is.
Seeing no old business and seeing no new business, looks like our announcements. The next meeting is scheduled for Monday, January 16th at 2 o'clock. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
We adjourn.
Second.
Jack and Kara, all in favor? We're adjourning at 5 minutes to 3. I'd like that noted. Thank y'all.
Got me a bunch of friends.